Hello and welcome to Boomer Live once again, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's a late night, middle of the night stream, but yeah, that's been Champions League action. It's been a topsy turvy, glass game day action, which we got, especially from the Group F. What a classy finish it was for Champions League for a final game day, where you saw at one moment it was Newcastle United who was going to go through into the knockouts, but it wasn't to be. Then PSG equalizing, the Newcastle falling short, the AC Milan equalizing against Newcastle, then AC Milan taking the lead, which makes Newcastle now getting any European positions, which means they'll not even be playing the Europa League playoffs. Now, that's how shambolic, that's how saddening it's been. The last playoff stage, the last game day for a lot of teams. It was a beautiful finish. I'll definitely put up the last game day, the results and what's been happening. Uh, Obviously, we saw some big results. Obviously, Barcelona going down, losing as well 3-2 to Royal Antwerp. As Van Bommel said yesterday, they will be well prepared as they face Barcelona in the next stage. And he came out preaching at the end of the day. His words came out to be very true. We're just going to press in the screen right now, as you see on the screen. It's been phenomenal finish to the last day of the Champions League group stages. You saw yesterday evening when Bayern Munich and Manchester United fought with each other. It was Bayern Munich who emerged victorious, and ultimately Manchester United not getting any position in Europe. And to add to that, today's games were even more exemplary. You saw an exciting game when Crevena Zuadza played against Manchester City earlier today. It was a 3-2 high scoring affair. Then today, another game which was very exciting was obviously Antwerp versus Barcelona. To say about this game, obviously Barcelona are qualified. They are number one in the table, so they're not taking this game seriously. But for them to lose two back-to-back games, that'll be definitely putting a lot of pressure on Javi and his management at this point, because after the loss to Girona, the media and obviously the fans haven't taken that well. Obviously, it's a derby game at the end of the day, so you can afford to lose such games, especially to a team like Girona, who's definitely a team in form, but you cannot lose derby games at the end of the day. They don't take it well. And now to lose a Champions League game away from home, that'll definitely waste a lot of eyebrows for sure. And to add to this, you have to talk about the fact that today's game is just not about, it's just not about the fact that they've lost the game, but the fact that they have lost two back-to-back games to be obviously spoken about even more in depth. But the biggest game of the night was Dortmund versus PSG. Dortmund, obviously, a team who have been in good form in this Champions League lately. They played some good football. It was Karim Adeyemi who took the lead for them initially, scoring their opening goal against Paris Saint-Germain. That really put them in a good position. You thought at that point Newcastle were on the charge because Newcastle had already taken the lead in the game other end. But if you have to say, if you look at the group as of now, Newcastle don't get any points. Newcastle finish with 5 points. It's AC Milan with 8. They lose on goal difference to Paris Saint Germain. If that game could have been won by Dortmund, you never know. AC Milan could have even progressed today. So that's how topsy turvy the group was, and it was a fitting group of death for sure, because until the 90th minute, you saw all four teams being in that knockout. Dortmund was a team who's already qualified into it, but what you need to really speak about over here is the fact that they could have missed out of the first position, which they were really desiring to finish. Now, when you get that first position, you get that added advantage of playing teams who had finished second in other groups as well. So, but having said that, the fact of the matter is Newcastle would be kicking themselves at this point because they had their chances in today's game. If you go back to today's game, there were some clear-cut opportunities, some brilliant goalkeeping from Mike Maignan from AC Milan. He made sure AC Milan were in the game. And Newcastle will be feeling that they did not finish some of the chances as well, especially up front in the box. Outside the box, they did take some shots which couldn't be converted, but it came close. But if you talk about today's game, I think anyhow really missed a trick, especially when the AC Milan was trying to attack. Uh, you left a lot of space open, especially that goal was they considered Chukwueze. That should have been avoided. They knew that AC Milan was more eager to score at this point. If they could have balanced it, made sure that was not considered, because of what happened was that entire momentum was sucked in. The opportunity what they had was really something. You saw that period from 67 minutes to 83, 84 minutes. Newcastle was a team who was high on momentum. Newcastle was a team who had the crowd behind them. But the moment AC Milan took that extra the lead, crowd went silent. Milan fans were more up there, but it wasn't to be. That's what happened today. Ultimately, if I'm talking about tonight's game, one thing is for sure that it's a game of momentum at the end of the day. Is that you have to be up there, especially when it comes to not letting away that lead. The game management was very important. Obviously, he bought Dan Bird and he bought in Livermore to switch sides, switch the wings, but it did not. Sorry, it did not happen. But it that's that is the game of football at the end of the day. To be very honest, you have to manage your resources much better. I thought bringing Dan Burn was a good option, but it could have been for Livermore, and Trippier should have still continued, is what I felt, because having Trippier in that team, especially in the dying moments, would have really meant. Understandable, they wanted to manage the game a lot better. Maybe Trippier's fitness was something was they wanted to question a lot more, but I thought that was bad decision. And at the same time, bringing Isaac was also a good option, but where did he bring him up? You bought him ahead of Gordon, who was really having a good game today. So these are some things which you could have really looked on to, because you were trailing in the game. You were not having a lead where you could have possibly done things a little different. You had to score that one goal either ways, even though you were level playing field with Pavis Jim, and you should have been the one who should have scored that extra bit of goal. So these are things which they should have managed it a lot better, I felt, in my opinion. But it wasn't to be. But if you're talking about other game, Zaire Emery's good. I mean, he's a kid who's getting better with every game he's playing. I'd have to give credit to Luis Enrique here. One factor that, even when the team was down, 1-0 down, he kept believing that we could come back, and the press which they applied on Dortmund that really paid off. I thought there was a couple of opportunities where Paris Saint-Germain could have gotten that lead and could have sealed the game right there, but yeah, sometimes it doesn't happen often, isn't it? So, but having said that, I'd have to be very honest. The fact of the matter is that Paris Saint Germain, they came very close. They really showed what they can really bring, especially when it comes to such big game days. Luis Enrique showed his experience as a manager today. I felt big 1-0 down in Iduna Park at level. It isn't an easy job. Let's be honest. You're against possibly one of the most hostile atmospheres in world of football. Add to the fact that Dortmund, who are playing some really good football in their point stage. So for Luis Enrique, what was against him was all that he had to fight in for. And that's where I personally will give credit to Luis Enrique for the fact that he managed the team a lot better. But that's one aspect of the game which you talk about. And other than that, I personally felt one factor which a lot of people don't talk about is the involvement with someone like for me, I felt in the middle of the park, Zaire Emery had today. Though he was a goal scorer, obviously he gets a lot of credit for being a goal scorer. But the fact of the matter is, the plays he created today, the opportunities he created today was phenomenal. I thought some great defending in the back of the line, Marquinhos as well. And let's give credit to someone like Donnarumma. There was a couple of chances where you really felt like Dortmund was going to take the lead. If Dortmund would have taken the lead today, and if they won the game, if you look at the way the table stands, you could say that it would have been AC Milan and it would have been Dortmund who would have gone through. Uh, Two teams who, especially AC Milan, who did not really expect to qualify today ultimately, but they got a European position. That's something they'll be very proud of, because when they came into this game today, and after what you saw in the first 60 minutes, you felt like it wasn't for AC Milan. AC Milan was the fourth team which was in the table. AC Milan was the one team who was nobody was talking about, because everyone was talking about the PSG and Newcastle firstly. Thirdly, Dortmund, who's going to finish first or second in the group. Nobody was talking really about AC Milan, but they showed today once again how they can be good, especially while they're countering the four attackers who were there in the field today. I thought Pulisic had a good game. To add to that, Jovic and Chukwueze, when they were brought in, they really had a good game. Rafael Leao, especially carrying the ball forward time and time again, testing the right hand side of Newcastle. He had a phenomenal game there. Uh, and that, to be very honest, I felt Lucas Hernandez in the back line, he really showed a lot of solidity today. But Mike Maignan, man, he saved the day for AC Milan. Let's be very honest, if that save was not done, I think it was the 65th, 67th minute when that save, when Gumarich passed, Gumarich took that shot from outside the box. That should have been a goal. And a lot of keepers would have missed it. It was by the scuff of his neck, you could say, by the barest of margins. You saw that ball being saved. You saw you saw the game was still on level peggings, or else that could have been the end of it. That could have possibly been the end of it, and Newcastle would have been leading. They would have managed the game a lot better. But yeah, Mike Mignon, credits to him once again. Last season, you saw some of his brilliances in the Champions League, but unfortunately, they'll not be playing anymore Champions League, but they'll definitely be having European football to look forward to at the end of the day. But having said that, one factor which really impressed today is definitely was definitely one of the factors in the defensive line of AC Milan. They kept at it, even though they made sure there were a lot of opportunities which Newcastle got. They were very solid. You feel bad for Newcastle at this point of stage because they did create their opportunities, especially Joel Linton running and creating in space. Anthony Gordon as well cutting inside, creating his opportunity. You just felt like they lacked that extra bit of penetration towards the final third. If they'd have gotten that, you would never know. Really, Newcastle could have gone through today. But that's from one side of the stage, one side of the group stage. But let's look at other games as well, which took place today. I think very high scoring game you saw from Porto versus Shakhtar. Interesting game to start off with, to be very honest, because Porto took the lead. Then you saw Shakhtar come back. Then again, it was a tussle, you can say so, Porto Shakhtar, but ultimately it was a Porto dominant game. They really showed what they're all about. They are a strong team. They challenged Barcelona as well a couple of occasions. Shakhtar is a good team. They have always been great. So that's a very interesting finish to the table as well. If you look at the last group today, the way in which how Shakhtar and Porto have finished. Porto have gone through obviously with the big win for them. They go through into the knockouts once again. A team which tends to surprise a lot of people. Let's be honest. They're a team who has really surprised a lot of people over the period of time. But for me, a team of this Champions League have to be Atletico Madrid. I mean, we talk about this team often because they're a big name. They played 2 European finals in the last 10 years. They've really been a good team to watch. But this season, they're really underplaying it. And I really feel, if you really look into it in a little more depth, I think a team which we have to talk about and we have to consider a little more seriously is Atletico Madrid. To come out of a very tricky group, credits to them for that, because it wasn't going to be easy to come out of a group which was slightly tricky on paper. Let's be honest. It was like one of those groups which they had last season. Feyenoord is not a bad team. Celtic can surprise a lot of teams. And you had Lazio. Obviously, Lazio playing away from home. It's obviously going to be hard in a ground like Lazio in Italy. And then you have Feyenoord, who always tends to pull up a surprise every now and then with the style of football they play. But credits to Atletico, a brilliant campaign, 0 losses, an unbeaten run in the Champions League, 4 wins, 2 draws, out of which they were extremely clinical in the defensive line. If you look at the way in which they've scored a lot of goals at the same time they've conceded very few amount of goals in the Champions League campaign. Not a lot of teams have been able to do it. If you have to look at, they've only conceded 6 goals in this entire campaign, and that's a brilliant stat to have, to be very honest. But for me, if you talk about last night as well, two teams who really showed this Champions League that maybe they could be in the teams to watch out for, Real Sociedad. They've always been there in La Liga. They've done well, but this was an opportunity which I really felt like, yeah, they showed in the European stage, especially in Champions League, finishing on top of the group. Uh, Even the likes of, obviously, you have Benfica, who really had a phenomenal run last season. And also, when you have team like Inter Milan, I'd have to give credit to Real Sociedad for finishing on top of the group there. But for me, the biggest disappointment have to be this group, was that when you had Manchester United, Copenhagen, Galatasaray, obviously you expect Manchester United to at least get the Europa League position, but what a travesty of a finish. I mean, I know I covered last night's game, but as we come to the end of the Champions League side of affairs, I have to be very honest. What really disappointed me was even yesterday the fact that this team lacks the drive. Maybe the team is in very bad position. As a fan, if I'm not a Manchester United fan, but the fact of the matter is, if you are looking from a fan's perspective, what are you looking forward to? What is the light at the end of the tunnel? There's nothing at the end of the tunnel at this point. Last season, you felt like when Ten Hag took over, there was light at the end of the tunnel. They won the Carabao Cup. Team was gelling well. Ronaldo was there initial part. He left though that it looked like a manager who had the will, who had the drive to lead this team no matter what happens. But at this point, you'd have to really think about, okay, this is not really going well for Manchester United. things are not really like you want it to happen. And Eric Ten Hag will have to take the blame at certain stage. This is a defeatable Bayern Munich team. Let's be honest. I mean, they've not lost a single game in this Champions League, but this was a defeatable Bayern Munich team. You saw that from this Bayern Munich team that they had gaping holes, especially in the final third, especially in midfield, even defensive line. If you are ready to take the ball, if you're ready to use the wing a lot more, if you're ready to penetrate through, be more fluid with your number eights, you could have really created a lot more shots. But I felt there was no creativity from Manchester United. There's something which we have been, a lot of Manchester United fans have been cribbing for. The work rate is extremely minimal with this Manchester United team. The drive is something which is very important, especially when you're competing in group competition like this. The drive to achieve a lot more. I feel it's a campaign to forget for Manchester United. I think they'd be regretting at the end of the day. They'll be looking back at this campaign and they'll be feeling, this is one of the. Thank you, Merlin, for that. Thanks for that interpretation. You look super cute. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Merlin. Thank you for staying up late night as well and watching the stream. Yeah, so that's thank you for that. A lot of people watching this time. But yeah, having said that, Manchester United, lastly, to cover this, I think Manchester United would be kicking themselves at the end of the day, the way in which they finished this. I think one of the most surprising finishes for this season is obviously been for me the way in which our uh, Atletico Madrid have finished. Copenhagen is a surprising entry. I think Galatasaray is still a better team to enter into the knockouts. But other than a lot of expected results, you can say if you look at Group H, Barcelona, Porto qualifying, a lot of people expected that. Leipzig, Man City qualifying, a lot of people expected that as well. Uh, Dortmund and PSG was the most expected one, as expected. That's the result what we've gotten, and Atletico Lazio qualifying is what expected. Benfica, Real Sociedad group is something which you can say is slightly more interesting because I expected Benfica and Inter to qualify and Real Sociedad to finish third. But one team who I really thought played well and really went down fighting was Union Berlin. They showed what they can do, but they did not really have the experience to do it on big stage like Champions League. I'm pretty sure they'll come back stronger. But this was one of the most interesting groups as well. Lens, PSV, and Arsenal. Arsenal showing in European stage is beautiful to watch. But I'm sure as time go by, you would see a lot more resurgence from teams like Lens and obviously Arsenal as well. It's going to be an interesting one for them in the knockouts. I like to see how they manage it now with Premier League and both of this going at the same time finally. So that's about it from us for tonight. Obviously, we've been able to cover a short live, late in the middle of the night. But thank you all for joining, whoever have joined. We'll be back soon. We'll be back tomorrow, rather. Obviously, talking about cricket to start out with because it's Pakistan versus Australia. We'll be covering that, and India versus South Africa, the T20 series and the One Day series as well. Have a good night, all of you. See you all tomorrow and take care and stay safe. And do not forget to check out our app Boomer 11 because the season is on. Check out our football features and check out our cricket features as well. Play the predictor feature right now, predict the football score lines, the scores in cricket, and also at the same time, check out our fantasy options because you can make your team and you can win a lot of prizes by playing our premium content with Boomer 11. Take care, stay safe, all of you, and see you all tomorrow. Bye bye.